One, two, one, two. Gerard, can you hear us? Benedicte?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Wonderful.
Can you hear me all right?
Great.
Very good. So quality of audio and video is fine with you at your end?
Perfect.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry?
Hello, it's Amy Pope. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Brian. Very good, Brian. Good seeing you. Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah, yeah. That's exactly. Okay, let's get started. Good afternoon, colleagues, friends. Welcome to the session. On behalf of NORCAP, UNDP, IOM, the German Federal Foreign Office, I will welcome you to this session about decarbonizing humanitarian energy today. And as Jaime said, it's the last day of 2 week long, so please bear with us. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be something new. My name is Thomas Rorup. I'm the strategic lead of the GPA, stands for the Global Platform for Action for Sustainable Energy in Displacement Settings. So we are a one-stop shop for everyone who is interested in SDG 7 in displacement settings, meaning refugee camps, for example, or displaced camps in any way. We have a fantastic set of moderators. So you get two moderators for the price of one. Let me introduce Jaime de Bourbon de Parme. I met Jaime when we were both working for UNHCR with UNHCR, and I met him as a very passionate warrior against climate crisis, and also linking this with humanity and the needs of displaced people. And he will be joined by, now let me get this right, Rogella Mumpubeni, almost, right? She's a youth representative from South Africa. Over to you both.
Well, thank you very much. We're a team. So what I have decided that when I was approached by Climate Youth of the Netherlands and later by International Climate Youth, that I should include youth, the next generation that is going to be longer on Earth than I will be, in all the panels and discussions where I can. And so it's great having you with me. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Rogella Mumpubeni. Mumpubeni. I'm here with the South African government, and I'm here as a youth voice for the government. In fact, the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. Despite that, I am the youth representative to the G20 of South Africa. I'm the head delegate. I'm also a youth member of the Youth Policy Committee of South Africa. I'm also a member of Youth at SIRE, which is an organization that works with young people. And it's through them that I've been able to do all these things. And yeah, I'm really excited to be on this panel and be here to really engage and share my ideas and question what we're doing today. Yeah.
So Rogella, you are going to be liveliness on this dual-led panel. I'll be dealing with the structure, and you give comments from time to time to see what the youth thinks of it. So wonderful to be here. Today, we signed with many countries the Net Zero Government Initiative, which is the government's signed on to go to net zero 2050 and with in-between targets, etc. So that means that government that have a huge purchasing power are going to use that to influence the climate agenda and to be part of the NDC. And what we discussed last year, and we're going to discuss this year, is the extension of national governments, which is the UN system. How can we get the UN agencies to net zero as well? What can we do to decarbonize it? And how can we use that momentum to also support the people of concern, the refugees, the migrants, etc. So it's good to be here and to discuss these things. And let me quickly go through whom we're going to have. We're going to have some government representatives. In a minute, he's coming late. He's still in the negotiations. Norbert Gorissen, he is the Deputy Climate Envoy of Germany, so my direct counterpart in Germany, but he's also Director for Climate and International Energy Politics at the Federal Foreign Office of Germany. Then we have Amy Pope. She's online. Amy, I don't know if you can hear us or you'll be online soon, but Amy's the Director General for Management and Reform at IOM, the International Organization for Migration. And then we have Benedict Giaver. I don't know, Benedict is online as well. And Benedict is Executive Director of NORCAP. And NORCAP is an NGO based in Norway, which is one of the coolest NGOs out there. They give technical assistance to all the humanitarian agencies that lack the technical knowledge, for instance, on energy transition, and they provide that technical assistance to us in the deep field. So it's a very valued partner, and it's great to get her perspective at this panel. And then we have Shaza Al-Rihawi. Welcome, you're physically here, and chairwoman of the Global Refugee-led Network. So that's Refugees for Refugees, and also the founder of the Global Independent Refugee Women's Leaders. Thank you for being with us and sharing the voice of the people of concerns in these panels. So it's all about inclusion here. And Brian Oyango, sorry to have to look to your name twice. Fantastic to see you, and you're part of our panel as well. And you're a social entrepreneur. You're living in Kenya right now, in Kakuma settlements, and it's great to have you with us. I've been in Kakuma quite a few times, so I know the environment. I'm just wondering, what part of Kakuma are you living in?
Thank you. I live in Kakuma town.
Wonderful, wonderful. So here we are. We have a good panel, and but we first have some introductory remarks, maybe by Thomas, but also by Gerald Demeul. He's based at UNEP Copenhagen and leads the engineering team at UNEP to green the UN offices globally. So UNEP is really leading on this, but the word is to you, Thomas.
Thank you, Jaime. Yeah, let me explain a little bit why we're here. Why is this an important topic for us? What we want to achieve is basically going from left to right, right? On the left side, we see these old, crappy diesel generators, that there are thousands of them out there. They are inefficient, they're costly, they pollute a lot. And what we want to see is the right, the shiny, the green solar installations. And the shift from diesel to solar, we've done a survey last year. We asked the 5 biggest humanitarian partners in the UN plus ICRC, how many generators are you actually operating every day? And we found out it's 11,400 units, 11,400 generators. We believe we heard similar numbers from the UN peacekeepers. So in total, we are talking probably about 25,000 diesel generators that are run by the humanitarian partners, by these 6, 7 humanitarian partners. And these are only the generators they actually own, not that they rent or lease. So it's an enormous number, but it's also enormous potential for us. Just to give you an idea, if we really are serious about solarizing 80% of them until 2030, we're talking about 3 to 5 generators per day, including weekends, and we haven't really started yet. we estimate with this 11,000 generators, we're talking about 110 million that is spent for diesel every year. Doesn't include maintenance, doesn't include spare part, doesn't include new generators. And we assume they will emit around 200,000 tons of CO2, which is equivalent to 7,000 return flights from Geneva to Nairobi. So it is quite a decent amount of consumption and also emissions, unfortunately. And if we want to replace like 2/3 of them, it would require an investment of about 230, 240, 50,000 million US dollar, which is not that much if you compare this to the larger humanitarian fundings we usually have. So this is really the point of today. We will set up this new fund, this new program to solarize many of these. We start with 5 countries, and Gerard will give you a little bit more insights how we actually want to do this. Gerard, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. And indeed, the numbers that Thomas has just outlaid are stunning for 3 reasons. The challenge that we have in front of us. We're looking at almost 12,000 generators out there. The second thing is the impact we could have. We're looking at reducing by 2/3 our CO2 emission in the context of humanitarian operations. And the opportunity, imagine from just an economical point of view, we have a return of investment of only 2 years. We invest 200 millions and we have savings of 100 millions just in fuel. And to address these 3 things, we have a vision. And this is what I would like to share with you, our visions, to make sure that this project is a success. So our vision is to create smart facilities, build local capacity, and inspire movement. So first, smart facilities. There are 4 pillars to it. The first one is, of course, energy. Sahel region is blessed with an abundance of sun. So this is what we would harness with deployment of renewable energy based on solar panels. And the word solarization. The second pillar, as part of the smart facility, is what we call Internet of Things and data, mainly sensors that would allow us to make our facility very energy efficiencies and our investment, the solar panels, optimal to use in the best possible way. This is extremely important as well because the greenest kilowatt hour is the one that you do not use. And the second pillar of sensors, Internet of Things, and data analysis and analytic is very important. The third element or pillar of our smart facilities is connectivity. It's very important that we monitor the solar panel installation and all these sensors 24/7 continuously for the lifetime of the system so that it is continuously improved. And if it goes down or there's a problem, we can react. And we can also review its efficiency every year or so to make it better. So connectivity is very important. And of course, all of that, the last pillar has to work into a secure environment. So this is what we will be trying to create, a smart facility, and what we mean by a smart facility. The second element of our vision is to build local capacity. And for that, we have a few things. We have what we call a 7-step best practice. And you see some of them on that slide there. What they are in essence is looking at from the cradle to grave of our installations. And we want this installation not to last 1 or 2 years, but to last for decades. The life expectancy of our solar panels and so on should be measured in decades, up to 30 years. And for this, we have these 7 steps. First, we want to make sure we do the proper thing, which call for the first step, which is an energy audit and a site assessment. Then we do a business case to make sure that we balance well our investment with our impact and so on. We then reach out to the private sector with a procurement process. And subsequently, we do the other step with the site survey, the design and installation. And the last step is operation and maintenance. Very important that this part of this vision is more like a energy as a service. So we don't abandon ship at the end of turning the key to our solar panel installation, but we do keep monitoring it, maintaining it, and operationalizing it. And these 7-step best practice are based on lesson learned for over 8 years. And it was also initiated during one of the crises 8 years ago, if you remember, the Ebola crisis. So this is the accumulation of lesson learned, mistake, and so on, and continuous improvement. And all this knowledge, we want to share it with the local people, so they have a process, procedures, and tool on how to implement a project. We will engage with local partners, with the beneficiaries, the local businesses, the community, to give them training on how to operate the system. We will develop local skill and continuous training and knowledge. So that's the second pillar of our vision. And lastly, the last pillar, and I will conclude on that, is to inspire movement. Now imagine when we have local people, a father, a mother, that have been employed and now have developed a business and knowledge to install solar panels and have a livelihood by going around and replicating what we're doing. Then we have a sustainable and irreversible movement, because we have local people that are now have a livelihood that brings value to the local community, and this becomes a virtuous cycle. So we hope that one installation will give birth to another 10 installations, and this other 10 installations will also give birth to 10 installations for triggering a irreversible movement. And now imagine that one installation in one of the refugee camps 5 or 6 years later has inspired solar panels on every school, every house, every hospital, every facility in the Sahel region. So back to you, Thomas.
Thank you, Gerard. Just to wrap up, just wanted to give you a very broad overview about sort of the highlights of the program. So we will look at least 400 generators, 5 countries in the Sahel. We had generally support from the Federal Foreign Office with 20 million euros. We will reduce the emissions. We will build markets. We will create jobs in this program. We will train local capacity, and hopefully we can also expand this to actually provide electricity to the people we serve. Thank you very much for this, for your interest, and back to you, Jaime.
Well done, Thomas. No, it's been quite a challenge. I mean, if you look at the world, there's 100 million forcibly displaced people, and that's not counting those that come from Ukraine right now. 100 million people, 90% of them do not have access to energy. And the UN agencies supporting them are emitting a lot of carbon, helping people in need. So we need to make sure that the aid is given is also benefiting the planet at the same time and saving money for the UN system. So that's the great thing of this, and we're very happy that Germany has been able to provide the seed funding, or quite substantial funding, 20 million euros, to do that in 5 countries and make it actually happen. We've been working on it for a long time, Thomas. This is actually really exciting that this is actually happening. So let me first give the word to Conrad, and Conrad is jumping in for Norbert Gorissen. And my question to you is indeed, can you tell us a bit why Germany supported this? Why are you as enthusiastic as we are about this?
Yes, thank you. I was just happily preparing my briefing notes for the minister while I was asked to jump in here. So apologies for maybe imperfect remarks here. But we all do what we can, and we also do what we must, I must say. And we have to, as the whole world, respond to the climate crisis. And we all know that the Sahel region is particularly affected. So we are active there in many fields, but also in humanitarian aid. We think that renewable energy is the #1 future energy source, obviously. Trying to roll that out throughout Africa, but cleaning up the lives of those who are most affected by climate change, and also including communities that surround refugee camps, we think is just an excellent initiative. We see the constantly increasing demands for humanitarian aid. We see that the funds rarely cover the needs. But we also see renewable energy as a way to, over time, save money and to free it up for humanitarian aid, because renewables are the cheapest source of energy. And instead of spending money on dirty and fossil fuels for cooking, on dirty fuels for diesel generators that are usually providing camps with electricity for critical infrastructure, why not use something clean instead? And yeah, why not save a little bit of the hundreds of millions of US dollars that are every year burned in this way uselessly, and invest once and then free up this money for better uses. So that's the underlying rationale. And also, I mean, it might sound cynical, but why is it that these regions affected the worst by climate change also have the best conditions to provide renewable energy, to provide solar, particularly solar energy? So why not at least inject a little bit of glimmer of hope in these conditions? So that's basically where we come from. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Conrad. And so a quick question to my co-host, Angelo. You know, you're listening to this. What impressions do you get for now?
I think that this is an incredible initiative. I hope I'm audible. I think that this is an incredible initiative. I think for once, we are bringing back to people. For a long time, African people have suffered and bared the brunt of colonialism, climate change. So for once, these communities will actually have the opportunity to have proper livelihoods. And I think this is good that we're giving back to them. What I ask is for this to be sustainable. In the long term, should we have some sort of economic crisis or some sort of changes, political instabilities, that these communities are taken care of? I think that this initiative needs to integrate principles and ethical principles that will ensure that in any condition, whether of political instability, economic crisis, these communities are taken care of, that there may not be a case where these renewables or access to energy becomes more expensive, becomes inaccessible. So I think that's the key thing that we have to sort of think about going forward. But I think that this initiative is what we really need. It's why we come here for these conferences, and it's what needs to drive us and give us hope for communities.
Well, thank you very much. So we get endorsement of the next generation. That's very important. And from the African perspective, South Africa. I want to move now to Amy Pope. Amy, great that you're online with us. And I would love to get the perspective of IOM, International Organization of Migration, one of the two agencies focusing on displacement. IOM and UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agencies, are working on this. But Amy, I see that IOM is really moving fast on this. And what do you need? What resources do you need to make that transition possible? You're still on mute, I believe.
Okay, sorry, I was double muted there. I just want to say thank you, Jaime. It's really good to be back here with all of you again. I think it's really an important opportunity for us, one, to refocus, make sure we're continuing to make progress following our conversation at COP26 last year, to hold ourselves accountable, and to make sure that we're driving the conversation. And as you're right, as you mentioned, the conversation last time really was about financing and how we can finance the work, particularly in a humanitarian crisis, and especially to do so without pulling away the critical resources that are needed in a humanitarian response. I also want to just take a moment to celebrate the financial contribution that Germany is bringing to the table. I mean, this is really going to allow us to drive this energy transition forward. And I want to really talk through what we're seeing in the Sahel and the importance of having an initiative, a conversation about a response in terms of people impacted by climate change. This is just so timely. I was recently in Somalia. We are seeing over 1 million people who are being displaced there because of the drought. They're teetering on the edge of famine. These are real live people. We're trying to bring resources that are desperately needed, but the goal has to be to do so without making the situation worse, and to do so in the most sustainable way possible. So when we think about decarbonization, we think about what the trust fund is going to do to support our work. There are a couple of things we're considering. One is how the clean energy transition can improve our operations. First and foremost is protecting lives, protecting the dignity and the human rights of migrants, the displaced communities and their hosts. But not just how to improve our operations, but how to improve the opportunities for people to make a living, frankly. We have some great examples, which I think just show what can work and that allow us to scale up around the world. IOM is solarizing our remote healthcare facilities, our water pumping systems, our humanitarian hubs and offices, and we're doing so that the humanitarian response we're bringing is being brought in a more sustainable way with a reliable energy supply. But I got to be honest, this is a bit slower than we'd like to see, and there are a couple of challenges. So first is the data that we need to inform energy programming. Second is funding dedicated to greening efforts. And third is technical capacity. So we need to be able to integrate renewable energy into our work that takes a level of capacity that is beyond the standard. So building that capacity in-house and with our partners is key. We have desperately relied upon the partners, including many on this panel, because you all have been really key. And I think that's important as we move forward. We have to recognize that everybody has a piece of this puzzle, and the partnerships are going to really drive the progress. We knew that we have data because we play a key role in collecting and providing data on internal displacement. We have something called the displacement tracking matrix. So just 2 years ago, we put a standard energy assessment framework in our matrix, so we could capture the energy needs of some of the most vulnerable communities we serve. And so for the first time ever, we had the energy needs of the displaced communities from Mozambique, South Sudan, and Nigeria, which we put into our reports. And we've started more in-depth data collection for our facilities in some of our largest missions. We've seen from our own data that 70% of our own carbon emissions are concentrated in our top 20 missions. So if we want to have the biggest bang for the buck, we need to figure on these kind of big country missions. But it's expensive to do this, just to be honest, right? And having a dedicated investment so that we can continue to inform our humanitarian programming is key. We hope the trust fund is going to help us overcome the barriers. There are very high upfront capital costs that are necessary if we're going to implement these renewable energy interventions, and we're hoping that this will be a way forward. And we're also looking to bundle the projects together with our partners within the UN. UNHCR is a key one. And then finally, we need to be thinking through what's going to happen to the decarbonization assets at the end of their useful life. And so we had some great partnership with Innovation Norway to study those challenges and opportunities, for example, relating to batteries and solar systems. So it's our hope that working with the MPTF, we can set up further e-waste upcycling facilities, which will also provide livelihood opportunities. And we can then demonstrate that we can protect the environment, but also create economic benefits for the communities we serve. So very exciting work that's happening. Key takeaways, this dedicated investment is key. These partnerships are key. And we just got to keep innovating. We got to keep building on the lessons that we're learning as we go along. Thank you.
Amy, it's really exciting to see what has been done already in the last 2 years. So an applause from here, from Sharm el-Sheikh to you. No, fantastic. And indeed, there's quite some challenge. And you said the technical challenge, because humanitarian agencies don't have the technical expertise in-house. They're humanitarians. They're sometimes lawyers if they have to be. There are many things, but they're not engineers. So we need that expertise. So I would love to go to Benedict. Benedict, you've been your organization has been tremendously important, instrumental for UN agencies to shift and make this change. Please tell us what NORCAP has been doing and how it's instrumental and where you see this is going.
Thank you very much. And I just also, first of all, would like to thank Germany for actually making this new project possible. It was like Christmas when we heard that you were willing to put in this money. So I just also hope that other donors will follow suit now. And also, I just want to thank our colleagues in the room for the great partnership we've had so far in developing this, this project. Just a step back in terms of what we're doing today, you know, it's been key focus for NORCAP to increase access to clean, renewable and affordable energy for displaced populations, and also ensuring the same for host communities. And I just want to also flag, you know, that this is not just about ensuring that people have access to power, but I also want to flag the empowerment element of this, yeah? Because we know how closely related access to energy is with poverty. So I think this is, we should not just think about this as in humanitarian and development term, but we also have to look into, see this in the peace building perspective. And that's why I think we need to look into different types of donors that should join this project for different reasons. So today we work very closely with a number of partners, including 3 of you in the panel, both IOM, UNDP and GPA. You are already good partners with us today. And that is because we see you as key actors in order to ensure good processes and drive change. It's about from policy to the implementation level. What are we going to leave behind in the end of the day? So currently in our current projects, we have 30 energy specialists working all over the globe. And just to give you a more of a practical example. So last year we worked with UNHCR. We were designing and implementing a solution to replace fossil fuel energy with clean energy at the compound in Kakuma in Kenya. And by the end of the year, we actually had ensured that 80% of the plant's electricity came from clean energy sources. We have now also, together with the UNHCR and all their partners, you know, developed and set in plans to achieve 100% electrification through renewable sources in 2022. So actually implementation is ongoing for 31 schools and 7 health centers that actually serves more than 400,000 people of concern. And it's both for refugees, but also for host communities. And we have carried out, I can go on in terms of more detailed information, but I think that's what's critical, that actually we have managed, and I think it's quite a big achievement. We did also a small survey in 2021, and actually 86% of our partners reported that NORCAP support improved their ability to deliver clean energy services to end users. So, you know, a key component of our work on clean energy is to promote collaboration and increase learning among stakeholders. And the stakeholders is both, you know, within the humanitarian sector, but also public and private sector. We must not forget that. So in terms of your second part of the question, you know, for this project, we will work on national level assessments, audits of the agency's infrastructure. We will work on, you know, the implementation plan of the project, both with UNDP and the private sector, which will include, tendering. We need to develop business cases and monitoring then when the implementation is there. So that means that we will incorporate all relevant stakeholders' perspectives in the projects, from the humanitarian organizations to the national government and end users. And I really would like to emphasize national government and end users, yeah? Because that's vital in order for us to ensure sustainable solutions in the end of the day. We need to strengthen data collection on energy needs, carbon emissions, and other important aspects required at the national level. Then, in terms of developing a local capacity of humanitarian entities and bringing in expertise. So this is something we're doing in a number of our different projects. And then I just want to sort of highlight that a key goal of this project is to include national expertise with knowledge from the region, etc. But maybe now I'm entering into the second question. But I just think in terms of sustainability, this is where we need to ensure that we need to focus on the national authorities, and we need to focus on the national expertise that we will hire and recruit in for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we had UNDP, who structures deals and helps the UN kind of make the shift within UNDP and beyond, and really thought what the models should look like. We have IOM as actually implementing it and finding where to move forward, but actually in the field. And we have Benedict, who's actually helping us technically make the shift. Now, I quickly want to go first to Brian, then to Shaza here on the panel live in Egypt to see what you think. And first, I want to go to you, Brian. I mean, we've listened to the technical expertise. How does a social entrepreneur move in this space? And tell me your story there.
Thank you. My name is Brian, and we are operating in Kakuma refugee camp. And my key take or my key worry when it comes to private or social enterprise like us operating in Kakuma is the technical skills. And this is one of the big challenge that we have. You find that we are operating in a marginalized environment, but we lack the expertise to some extent, to say, when it comes to maybe the after sales of monitoring and evaluation of some of the key products that we might be delivering to the end user. But as well, we can peg these with funding or maybe the support from any other partner who might be partnering with us. And we look forward by combining kind of technical support with a little bit of funding, and also with capacity building, helping us to grow and learn new by maybe networking with fellow humanitarian partners, and also maybe visiting or them visiting us to learn more from each other. Through this, we can be able to increase and improve the technical capacity building as maybe stakeholders, because in Kakuma, we are very few private sectors, especially us operating in renewable energy space, because us in particular, we have 3 segments in operations, offering clean cooking and offering clean fuel and bit of solar component. But in solar component, we find there's a huge challenge because we are dealing as a distributors. Yeah. So in case of any challenge, we must refer to the solar kind of in questions that we inquire. If it's something that is too technical for us to do, they come on the ground to assist. But this in between, there's a lot of time wasted. There's a lot of wear and tears maybe of anything that might be needed. And the end user is the one who suffers. So if we can have the technical skills with us and maybe a boost of kind of resources that might be needed, everything can work very smoothly within the humanitarian context where we are.
But to tell us a bit more about the business case. So what is the business case for you?
Basically for us in Kakuma, we are having a renewable project ongoing. We convert invasive prosopis into clean fuel called briquettes. And also we manufacture clean cookstoves. So what we do is that we have contracted refugees, close to 200, who distribute this our clean fuel to their fellow refugees. So we manufacture and we give them, then they supply on that.
And how big is the market there?
Oh no, the market is extremely big. Actually, we are underperforming in terms of productivity because we are talking about a demand of 3,000 of the product a month, but we are only doing less 1,000. So you can imagine the demand is way huge than what we can deliver, just because we don't have enough resources to have it done.
but it's better than the other way around. So you're having a big market where you start to service it and you try to ramp it up, to get support and the technical expertise to be able to ramp it, but you're already delivering quite a substantial. Where do the cook stoves come from? Do you build them yourself? Do the refugees build them, or are you imported from elsewhere?
No, actually, we manufacture them at the site. What we do, we just outsource the components from our major town in Nairobi. Then we do the assembling and the installations and the supply within the Kakuma, because we initially were doing it all the way in Nairobi and transportation cost was a little bit more expensive. But through our partners like SNV came on board, kind of help us with some few BCC partnership engagement, and we settled up into the site. And this made us a very easy way that even the refugee themselves, they can come directly to our facility on one-on-one basis. In case of after sales, they just come, we rectify the problem and they go back.
It's really exciting, and it also creates employment locally. So this is really, really a good example.
Yeah.
I really think that the work you're doing is incredible, impactful, and that's what we need with this trust fund. From what I'm seeing, technical assistance is key here. So what we need is to capacitate not just young business owners like yourself who are involved in energy, but the communities as well, to provide skills so that they may also join and be able to give back to their own selves, you know?
Well, thank you very much. I totally agree with you, co-chair. We're doing this well. Now my word to Shaza. Shaza, what's the experience of displaced people and how to get them involved into this process?
Thank you. Just correction, my name is Shaza, but I am exit chair for GRN. We have a new chair now. Actually, from our work in the community, and we already visit some camps, and lately we were in Kakuma camps, we try to address the problems and challenges that refugees have during the day to seeking the energy and afford the needs, if we can say. And from our side, we felt like this like multi-trust fund should be focused on two things. First, the participation should be prioritized, creating meaningful and equitable partnership with the refugee-led initiatives and organization in each level of the decarbonization of humanitarian assistance from all over, like strategy planning. So the community should be included, not as beneficiaries. I think we need to change here our approach to see them as equal partner, then all the strategy will be moving smoothly. We can say like refugee leaders are really empowered and they have the knowledge to work effectively to decarbonization. And we see here some examples. Also, there is another example from Kenya Kakuma venture that 10 of refugees leaders has both affordable power and internet access to one of the world's largest refugee camps. I think we have a lot of expertise in the ground, but we need to give them like attention, give them the fund, the support, then they will be act. Second, I think the fund should include the participation of the refugees and in the preparation and also engagement. So we need to like give the voices of refugees the priority, give them the monitorship, give them the equipment as well to be sustained and to depend on themselves. Mostly the humanitarian projects for refugees is just a project approach. Once the project and the fund done, they just leave, the refugees start from the zero. So I think creating such a sustainable project, maybe they will give the livelihood opportunities for refugees so they can depend on themselves. So this is how we see it. And this is not coming from me, it's coming from refugees themselves, because we consult with them and we ask them, what you need exactly to do if we have such a stuff.
Wonderful. No, that gives a good perspective. And I'm just going to do a second round, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm just going to do everybody a quick minute questions really fast. And maybe I'll go to Amy first. You've just listened to Shaza and said about involvement of refugees. How do you deal with involvement of displaced people? And coming from humanitarian organizations, they're often short-term focused. They only focus on the money they have, and often the long-term perspective is not part of the capabilities, funding, and everything structure. And you're actually hoping for others like UNDP to jump in, but that's not always the case. So how does IOM bridge the humanitarian development gap, and how do you engage refugees and displaced people in your work?
Thank you very much. And just to sort of put this into context, I mean, here at IOM, we have more than 20,000 people who are working in 500 different offices. The UN as a body has more than 315,000 people worldwide, procuring more than 22 billion worth of goods and services in a year, right? So just to kind of give us, you know, a size, the picture of the size of the elephant that we're dealing with. I'd say a couple of years ago, we started looking at solutions. How do we meet our sustainability commitments? How do we directly benefit the communities that we're working with? One of the things that we've been looking at is using a blended finance approach, providing a proof of concept so that we get the whole sector. So signing multi-year energy service agreements with renewable energy companies, having the electricity coming from a solar powered source for humanitarian hub in South Sudan, but also figuring out, does that work for the community? Do they have the skills necessary to continue to sustain it? Do they have, how do we build the competencies of the people that we're serving so that they continue to use this renewable energy source? So that's the kind of, I mean, there are these fantastic ideas out there, but if they cannot be sustained by the community itself, if they don't have the skills, if they don't have the resources, then it's not actually going to be implementable in the long run. So I'll just start there. So as we start with these innovative solutions, as we build the solutions, building the capacity, ensuring that it works for our end users is absolutely key to making it successful.
No, thank you very much, Amy. And Benedict, I go to you. We just heard from Brian the need for local capacity, so that's within the UN agencies. How do you build that capacity? And I don't know if NORCAP is also building capacity then of local communities, but the word is to you, Beatrice. Benedict, sorry.
Thank you. No, I mean, the whole thing around building local capacity is about sustainability in the end of the day and what we are leaving behind. So this is critical to many of our projects, and also for this project. Because our plan is to recruit national expertise, and they will work alongside our experts. And therefore we will have an exchange of learnings and understanding. But what is quite clearly what our experts don't come in with is the understanding of the region, the context, and how the things in just that country works. And that's why it's so important also with national expertise, and that's also who will be in the end responsible for this. So we see from many other projects that if we're able to recruit locally immediately, it's a much better position in terms of knowledge sharing, etc. The other thing I want to mention there also, because especially within the energy sector, it's a very male-dominated sector. So we have started, it's been running now for a couple of years, what we call a Female Energy Accelerator Program. It's really, really exciting. So we are able to train women with specific, regional experiences and different backgrounds in order for them to become energy experts with more varied experience. So we see this it's quite critical, but also because they have a different understanding of the culture on the ground. And we also seen several practical examples that when we have females who are interviewing female-headed households in terms of, this is about the user engagement, we get different results. We get much better results, actually. And that's also about the end user element that needs to have a completely central part in this project. But I also want to say that we need, and this is maybe something we need to work more on, it's how do we include the national authorities in this? And how do we build their capacity and their understanding also from day number one? That's also extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now I would like to go back to Shaza. Maybe what's your advice to UN agencies to involve refugees more into the solutions?
Yeah, actually, we are the affected community, and we know our community, we know our needs, we sometimes have our solutions as well, but we need the support. We need to be included actually in the programming, in the implementation as well. Just think about it, like you cannot know the needs of disabled person, for example. I am not a disabled person, so maybe they face something we don't know about it. So I think also AGD should be implemented as well. Women, as Benedict is already referring to, we see here women are missing. The voices of women and the decision making is missing. The community, we all work for the community, but the community themselves, they are not on the table. If you go and ask them what you need, what we can do for you, because I think we all here for them, we all accountable for them. So I think then we can achieve what we are aiming for. Since ages, we have the data, we have the documentation, we have everything, and we just run in the circle to see how we can improve. But what we see is more and more loss and damages. I think we need to ask those people what is the loss and damages from their perspective and how we can work towards reducing that, including decarbonization as well.
Now, so local knowledge to resolve local issues. And you mentioned women in the refugee setting and in many displacement settings, we see that 70% are women and children. So if you talk about community engagement, you should engage that community and therefore need to be part of the solution. So it's a very good point. Do you want to comment on this?
Definitely, it's a no-brainer. Young women bear the brunt of the climate crisis. So if you want to resolve an issue, then the most effective way, you have to get to the people who are impacted. Because if you are in a situation that affects you, you know more than a researcher would know. Those people need to be included in the processes, every single process of this trust fund. It needs to go and transcend beyond just financial assistance. It needs to be expert assistance. We need to capacitate these communities to be able to self-sustain themselves, like we were saying earlier, because what happens is they are left behind when the trust fund goes away. But that's all I will say for now.
Thank you very much. And now back to you, Brian. How do you involve? I mean, refugees are your clients, not just refugees, it's also the host communities. Most of them must be women. How are they engaged? How do you engage them? Again, we said maybe employment. Tell a bit more how you engage with the refugees.
Actually, in our operations, we have employed close to 40% of the refugee, and we have created an extra 189 direct engagement in terms of distributorship, whereby our product is being given to them, then they resell to the end users. So that's an indirect employment to them. But I would like to have a word by saying that private sectors that are operating in a refugee settlement also needs to be a little bit considered in terms of policy, in terms of some of the negotiations, not only on how things should be done, but how they need to be considered in bringing all together resources together, because at the end of the day, some of these in engagement, like you've asked, we work with them directly on a day-to-day basis. So we know how they relate, we know the kind of questions they ask. So we are the people with them on a direct level. So having a private partners also on board on the discussions normally give an easy way to also help these end people access this product easily, because without us as private, it will be too expensive for them even to afford as refugees.
Thank you very much. And now the quick question to Conrad as a donor. How do we get other countries on board? I know I'm from the Netherlands, so I can go back to my government and say, you know, can we support this more than now that Germany has stepped up? Can others stepped up? But what can we do to bring other donors on board to expand this? Amy already said it. It's very costly. It's upfront cost. We'll save money on time. You said it yourself, Conrad. So what can we do there?
Make this a success story first and then sell it to others. Would be my recommendation. What the interventions before me brought to mind, it's like what you addressed. How can we make sure that this is actually a stable and sustainable enterprise? I think it all works together. If you find smart ways to co-creatively design this from the kind of the demand side of the people on the ground who will work there, who live there, who need to be who have these fantastic training programs that are lined up. I mean, involving you here on this stage is one thing, but making this also a sustainable process is something that many smart people have great ideas on. For example, in Potsdam, close to Berlin, there's the Institute for Advanced Sustainability Studies that can probably help with such co-creative designs of these programs. I think scaling this up is the general issue that we have. I mean, ideally, if this is a net, if there's if we save so much money from humanitarian aid, it should be a no-brainer to roll this out to every humanitarian donor that there is, because it's such a self-explanatory idea.
So Amy, that's music to your ears, and for everybody else as well. Again, Thomas has been working this for a long time, but maybe Gerald, maybe you want a quick a quick comment on what you've been hearing until now, and then but just very short, and then I want to go to 2 online questions that we had and respond them before I give the word back to Thomas. Thomas, maybe you have them there.
Now you should be able to see the questions as well. First question is, where can we find more information? We will have a last slide prepared, how to get in contact with us. And our website in general is humanitarianenergy.org. And then a question to Amy, it's actually something we just discussed. How do we scale this up? Maybe Amy, you have also another idea. And then maybe take the third one already. Does the MPDF program consider providing energy services to the refugee camps? I think on the last point I can answer, yes, this is part of it. We want to connect this topic of decarbonization with energy access. This is really an integral part of that. However, we start with the diesel generators. We want to get rid of them. We want to bring the private companies in and want to incentivize them to also provide energy services to the people or to the NGOs and whatever. But Amy, maybe over to you.
Yeah, maybe if I could just say really quickly that I think there's some fantastic examples of where we've leveraged further funding from our own greening efforts. For example, we have this Peace Renewable Energy Credit that we did with the help of energy peace partners in South Sudan. And so basically we're using additional funds that were raised through this process. We call it the PREC process, that is now allowing us to solarize a teaching hospital in South Sudan, which is obviously benefiting the community there. So having these energy supply agreement, the Peace Renewable Energy Credits together, they just are very, very good example of how we kind of align different actors who are in this space to create additional funding.
Thomas, continue.
And if I may add to this, Amy, this is an excellent segue. We will work with energy peace partners here in this program. We want to include them from the outset in this entire workflow we are setting up. So then we avoid the large transaction costs which would be applied in these small systems. But when we bundle these systems, it actually makes sense and we can generate additional income. Thank you for bringing this up.
So now I'm going to the last round, and the last round is going to be non-scripted, and I'm just asking one question. What message do you want to bring? What hope you want to bring to COP27 here in Egypt? What message you want to bring from your perspective? Maybe I'll start with you, Brian, and just pass on the microphone.
Thank you once again. Basically, from my end, the impactness from the end person like us, and also the refugee, and the engagement by other partners that help us to learn more and network from this COP till the next one. It will be easy for us to delegate some of the new experience, new engagement going forward on how we can deployment from our end and gain more.
Thank you very much.
I can say nothing about us without us. If you want really to help us, to help the affected community, we have to start working with them, including them.
Now I'll end with you, Gerald. I told you I would give you the word. What message do you want to give here at the COP? And if you say it very loudly, then everybody here can hear it. There's 40,000 people here.
Yes, the message is we're here to help with building local capacity, and so that we inspire a movement that is sustainable and irreversible. It's all about providing a livelihood, and with this, accompanying with all the support we can bring with teaching, sharing information, sharing resources to really scale up these kind of initiative countrywide. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Benedict?
Okay, so I think what is really critical is that we need to ensure access to power of the most vulnerable parts of the populations today. We need to fight poverty through doing this. And in the end of the day, it's about empowering those people. It's about empowering, the people who is the end users. That can also be within the national governments, national authorities, but it's first of all about the people on the ground. Thank you.
Amy?
Thank you. I just want to say there is not only an imperative to do this work. We as humanitarian organizations responding to humanitarian crises that are often driven by climate change cannot be exacerbating the climate change through inefficient use of our own resources. So there's a real imperative. But the other thing is that there's this incredible opportunity. The more that the solutions that we bring enable the teaching of new skills, enable the implementation of new energy uses, and really incorporate the community into their responses, this is the way to drive the change ultimately. So we should not see it as just an obligation. We should see it for what it really is, an opportunity to bring us all into the future together.
And Conrad, how do you feel, Conrad, after hearing all this, that the German government supported? How does it make you feel?
I'm very encouraged and quite enthusiastic about your program. Congratulations. I think you're an important part in the speed up of the energy transition that is happening worldwide. We are speeding it up in Europe and also in response to the Russian war in Ukraine, make the best out of very, very bad and tragic situations. And if you can find such a lovely multi-dimensional approach to things that really injects stability where we need it most, as well together with renewable energies, that is just fantastic. Congratulations and thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And before I give the word to Thomas, I want to my co-host. How do you feel after this session?
Finally, they are giving us our money. I'm happy that money is going where it needs to go. We've been mobilizing for so many years to get finance for displaced communities, climate-induced refugees. And I think for once we are doing what's right. I urge other countries and other governments, private sector, particularly companies that are contributing to emissions to step in and do what's right. Because if they don't, we won't have a planet. We won't have a planet. So we need action as soon as possible. But this is definitely a step in the right direction. Bravo to the German government. I hope that this is done to be sustainable. We don't want a donation. We want something that will help communities for future use. So yeah.
Thank you very much. And the last word to Thomas. Thomas has been working on this for a long time. And the GPA is a platform for all UN agencies to collaborate and jointly figure out this space to be able to move forward. And it's not easy to get these very different organizations that are used to talking to each other to talk to each other. And you've been doing this, day and night for years. And now it seems really to have a windfall. You have the wind in your sails, and this is going to lead somewhere. How do you feel now after, all this?
Incredibly proud of the team, because it's not me. It's so many people. My colleague Mark, Amy, Philip, all these people who Sadiq, who are behind the scenes, who are working not only on this presentation, but also developing the methodology, developing this framework of all of this. And we have many, many other partners within the United Nations humanitarian network who developed for example, a model to replace diesel generators from a legal perspective. So we need contracts, we need power purchase agreements for that. We developed this already. We have a model for a guarantee mechanism, which we are now setting up. And now we really have the means to actually do this and do this on a large scale. We can do this for the entire country. And this really makes me proud.
Fantastic. An applause for all this and for the people that we're actually focusing on. Thank you very much.
Final slide with some information for anyone who wants to get engaged. Here we are. Do link up with us on LinkedIn. Do check out our website. We will give some more information when we develop this context further. And thank you all for coming. Thank you, Jaime, for being a wonderful moderator again.
Thank you very much. Let's do a group picture and then that's how we wrap up. Thank you very much.
So we really recommend you guys, if you can afford to help refugees who are in the camp, because in terms of education and even health sector, we need more energy.
أطالب الحكومات والجهات المختصة صناع القرارات بأن يعتمدوا على مصادر متجددة وغير ضارة للبيئة. كون العراق يعاني جدا من ارتفاع أسعار الكهرباء، فأتمنى أن تعتمدون على الشمس اللي وجودها كثيف بالعراق.
I would like to ask the government, world leaders, policy makers pertaining to energy in my context. Energy efficiency can deliver immediate results by lowering demand, while also putting us on the journey to longer-term gains. In that way, innovations could be ramped up, energy efficiency, not in theory, but in practice by all categories of youth and women.
My request to the global leader is to provide clean energy to promote decent life among refugees.
So when we are coming to government policies, we also ask the government also to allow the movement of energy products freely. Energy goods can be moved freely so that it can reach where the people is.
What I want the government to do and all the stakeholders, the policymakers to do is to promote the development of new energy sources and technologies by investing in energy.
Kitu naweza nikasi watu support na wasapoti zile kampuni. Huko mtu anaweza kuwa na pesa yake anataka asaidie wakimbizi, lakini ile pesa yake ni kidogo. Ukiona anakuja mbele yako kwa ofisi ana apply, msapoti ainue wale wakimbizi wengine. Juu maisha ya ukimbizi ni maisha magumu sana.
Aujourd'hui, je pouvais peut-être recommander quelque chose d'importance au gouvernement qui nous reçoivent, nous qui sommes réfugiés dans le monde. Si nos bailleurs de fonds peuvent accorder des fonds pour nous procurer de l'énergie, soit solaire, soit électricité, ça peut vraiment nous aider beaucoup plus. Cela nous aidera de vivre dans des climats là un peu sains, parce que nous éviterons même de l'insalubrité. Quand nous utilisons des braises et autres, il y a l'insalubrité qui nous poursuit un peu partout. Vous verrez que nous mangeons très tardivement et même la nourriture qui n'est pas bien propre suite à la façon dont elle a été préparée. C'est pourquoi je voudrais prier ou négocier même, aller jusqu'au point de retrouver comment nous pouvons être procurés de l'énergie dans des différents camps de réfugiés. Si possible, l'énergie solaire qui est durable par rapport à des histoires que nous utilisons. Parce que vous verrez souvent, il y a des petites torches au marché. Vous l'achetez aujourd'hui, demain, c'est déjà à lambeau et c'est plus facile aux enfants de perdre et d'abîmer. Mais quand il y a l'énergie solaire, ce système-là est très persistant. C'est-à-dire, vous pouvez même faire 2-3 ans avec ce même système-là.
الطاقة هي مهم للطلاب في دراستهم، وأنا أن أشهد قضاء العالم للتعرف بتحسن وصول الطاقة للاجئين والنازحين.
My message to the global leaders, if possible, kindly duplicate these services, this energy to other refugee places. It brings a lot of development. It brings a lot of changes, like in Karobe that we have seen, even the growth of our economy, it has some positive impact.